just look at these pictures. If something comes to your head to talk about, related or not, let's go ahead and do that, okay? So we looked at this the other day.
And the comment that I made was, I need to go back and look at the picture and see what it says on the back of it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because
all right.
I don't know that. I think it's Aunt Millie, but I'm not sure.
It looks like my Aunt Millie. This is a picture that was taken. My mother, the man leaning over was my mother's cousin, Leon Libby. We always called him Uncle Leon, and I think it was their 50th wedding anniversary. And it was some kind of a party that was being held, and just to the left of Uncle Leon is my sister Harriet in the dark hair, and then sitting next to her is my mother in the dress with the flowers on it. Behind him, the girl in the glasses, I don't know who that is, but behind the girl in the glasses is your mother.
Too thick.
Mm.
I don't know who those other people are.
All right, and Leon is kind of an unusual name.
Well, actually, his name was Napoleon Bonaparte Libby. But growing up with a name like Napoleon Bonaparte, as you can imagine, might be a fun thing. And
Yeah.
so he just chopped off the front part of it and went by Leon.
But he signed NB lots of times.
He signed his name N.D. Libby. He didn't write the whole thing out.
Yeah.
He just signed it N.D.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
But he was very, very good to my mother.
Oh, yes.
He was very good to my mother. My mother, when my mother had problems, financial problems, or needed help or whatever, her brother wouldn't do anything to help her, but Uncle Leon helped her a lot.
Wow.
He did lots of nice things for her, helped her out a lot, financially and emotionally and so forth.
Yeah.
He was very, very good to my mother.
That's good.
This picture is in the first row, the bottom right, in the white dress with the black neckerchief is my mother. Sitting next to her, I don't know.
It looks like Norman's wife,
Hilda?
Hilda.
Okay, that might be
It looks like Hilda.
my mother's brother's wife, Hilda. I don't know. The second row, from left to right, the older woman, I don't know. The second one is my grandmother, Isa May Libby Plummer, and then next to her, the older woman is Harriet Farah
Libby.
Libby, and then the woman to the right in the striped dress, I don't know.
We're assuming that they're Libby's,
Yeah.
that they're part of the Libby family.
On the last row, the man on the left, I don't know who it is. It might possibly be that the second man is Len Libby, Uncle Len, and he and his wife never had any children. But they adopted. I don't know if they ever legally adopted him. I don't know what the circumstances were, and his name was Richmond Davis. That might possibly be him to Uncle Len's left, but I really don't know. Perhaps on the back side of the picture it might tell. But next to Uncle Len, the girl...
Is that his wife?
I don't know whether that was...
When she was younger.
What was, oh no. 'Cause,
Eva, what's her name, Eva,
Eva, I think.
Eva.
And then the next man, I'm not sure whether it was one of Uncle Len's brothers, or
Looks like.
it might have been one of his brothers. I'd have to, possibly, on the back of the picture, my mother may possibly have written the names of the people. She did that quite a lot.
Do you know what this occasion was or anything about it? No? Okay.
No, I have no idea what it was. This picture is, the woman is my father's sister, Mildred, and the gentleman sitting is her husband, Alfred Taylor. And
That's their 50th,
I think it was their 50th wedding anniversary.
or 70th, or 70th,
Or
whatever.
60th,
Mhm.
or something, or 70, it might have been their 70th, I don't know. But she was a lovely lady. We used to go visit her on their farm down in Vassalboro.
And on her, if that was her 50th, I'm not sure, but I know that she wanted to go up in a helicopter. And her son, Barkley, arranged, because when we got there to help celebrate her anniversary, she'd said that she had gotten to go up in a helicopter.
Wow.
Yeah, she was a very unique person. When she was a child, my grandmother, and I've yet to really get to know what all the circumstances were and so forth, and maybe I'll have to wait for the eternities to find out. But anyway, my grandmother, Mitchell, had 4 children. She had Mildred, my father Raymond, Alice, and Donald. And Donald died as an infant of pneumonia. Mildred and Alice Alice was adopted by somebody,
A minister and his wife.
a minister and his wife, and then Mildred was in a home, and my father was in a place in Maine called Hinckley School. But anyway, Mildred, when she was about 12,
15.
15, a family, and I don't remember their
He
name.
was a military person.
Well, anyhow, a family
He was a major or colonel or something.
took a liking to her, and they adopted her, I think.
They were on their way. Remember, we're not military.
I thought they were on their way home from the home that she had been staying at.
Oh, she had been adopted and they were on their way home?
I think they were on the way home.
Oh, I see.
And there again, it'll be the eternities before I ever really know what happened, but they were on their way home from either the adoption or the home where Aunt Millie was or whatever. But anyway, they started to go across some railroad tracks, and who knows what happened, but the car got hit by the train, got hit by a train, and it killed everybody in the car except my aunt.
Wow.
But it somehow or other it crushed the car and her in such a way that it cut off both of her feet. And so then, after that, through the years, with artificial legs and so forth and so on, they kept having, for some reason, they kept having to cut pieces of her legs off until they got up, well, almost to her knees. But anyway, with that handicap, she trained herself. She could drive, she drove an automobile, she could ride a bicycle, Did she say the only thing she couldn't do was climb a ladder? Or did she climb a ladder?
I thought she couldn't ride a bike. She did ride a bike?
I thought she rode a bike.
No. One of those she couldn't do. She rode the tractor and...
She drove the tractor, she drove the automobile. It was either ride a bike or climb a ladder or something. It had to do with the bending of her knees and the artificial leg. She couldn't bend quite enough to accomplish it. But otherwise than that, she had one child, my cousin Barclay, and but she was a lovely lady.
Great cook.
Oh yes, wonderful cook.
So if we can digress for a second, how is it that all of the kids wound up in different homes or whatnot?
I don't know. This person that we spoke of before, Bernie Gardner, when he was a kid, he also was in this school up in Hinckley.
Hinckley Goodwill for boys.
It was a school for boys, and he was mentioning it one day, something about being at Hinckley, and I just casually said, "Oh, my father was in Hinckley," and so he said, "Oh." So anyway, he wanted information on my father and so forth and so on, and I guess he's kept in touch with the school and so forth and so on. But anyway, he recently talked with somebody, a secretary there at the school, and asked them for any information or records that they had on my father. And the woman came up with 6 or 8 or so letters that had been written to the school by my grandmother's sister, and also a couple by my grandmother. In one of the letters, it said that they needed to put the boy in a school someplace because my grandmother had already had to give up 2 lovely girls, and that her husband had abandoned her and so forth and so on. But as I say, until the eternities, we really don't know exactly what happened in that family, because my grandmother married a man of some means, I guess, and in my growing up, it always was more or less not said, but said that my grandmother gave up her kids so that she could marry this guy that had money, and he didn't want the kids and so forth. But I really don't know. These letters that were written to the Hinckley School indicate that my grandmother wasn't well.
She had to go to work.
And that she had to go to work to support herself and so forth. And it just somehow or other, because all of they came from the Biddeford Pool area, and most of those people out there, most of the Lamphers and the Hussies and the Goldthwaits and so forth, they were not poor people. And in doing some research, Madelyn's niece, Priscilla, did some research on the Mitchells, and she wrote us an email and raised the question with so many relatives in that area, in the Biddeford Pool area.
Living 2 doors down
There was
and on the same street.
grandmothers and aunts and uncles and so forth and so on. How come this woman had to put these kids out and so forth? So as I say, it was never really said, but then it was not said that my grandmother made the choice to divest herself of her children so that she could marry this fellow.
And then he remarried, William.
And William, my grandfather,
He remarried
he remarried
a woman that had 10 children.
and had
So
10
you
children.
wonder
So,
about the relationship with the 2 of them,
Yeah.
You wonder.
so I don't know. One of these letters said that my grandfather Mitchell at the time was in Boston.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether he was or whether he wasn't.
And
Yeah.
the letters that are being written by, one was written by Eliza Jane Huzzy, which it was his
Great-grandmother.
great-grandmother,
Mhm.
and which was Edith May's mother. She's pleading with Hinckley
Take
to
it.
take him because she's too old. She's in the letter. She said, "I'm too old. I can't take him. He's a bright boy. He's a good boy." And so, and also his mother, Edith May, wrote many letters saying he's a bright boy. He's a good boy, and then another letter she wrote, and after he'd been there for about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, she wrote and said that she had found another home in Portland, which was closer to her, and she'd be able to see him more often. I think it was Sam Klein.
It could have been, because he
'Cause-
lived, when we lived on Preble Street,
Mhm.
do you remember the big house that belonged to Aunt Bess? We called her Aunt Bess, Bessie Hearn, across the street. Do you remember the little house on the corner of Frederick Road?
You remember the Robotellos?
Mhm. Yeah.
That's the house.
Okay. Yeah.
The Robitelli
Right.
house.
Right.
Okay. When my father was a boy, Sam Klein owned that house.
He was in his teens when he got it.
He was, well, actually, he owned that whole,
Yeah.
there was 4 houses there altogether,
Right.
and Sam Klein owned it. And that's when my father, when he was, what, 15?
He must have been in his teens, because we have a letter where he says, he's written to his mother, and he says, "If you'll let me come home,
Yeah.
I'll sleep in the barn."
But anyway, and I guess what he said, what he always said about Sam Klein was that he was a very hard taskmaster, and that he beat him with a horsewhip.
Mm.
But then I get thinking about it, and his mother and his grandmother say he's a bright boy, he's a good boy, and so forth. Yet they want to put him out.
Mhm.
Then he tells about going to this home with Sam Klein and being beaten with a horsewhip. And so you wonder, at least I do, if he was a good boy and if he was bright and so forth and so on, why did they put him up to Hinckley, and why
Was he beaten?
why was he beaten with a horsewhip? I mean, and in later life, because of the way he treated my mother and so forth and so on, makes me question exactly what kind of a person he was.
And when he started with the booze, and when he started with the drinking.
He always, he had all.
No, I mean as a boy, when you wonder.
Oh, I don't know. I
You
have no
wonder
idea.
if he started way back then.
I have no
Yeah.
He always blamed it. He always said that it was because of the war, but actually, and actually, I don't, having found out later on that he was a cook in the Army, I wonder if he actually
Sorry.
saw any real action in the war. Well, I don't know, I'll have to wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so for some unknown reason though, your grandmother, now were she and William divorced?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Which wouldn't have been a real popular thing.
Not back in those days.
Not, that would have been,
And Eliza Jane Hussey, her mother,
yeah,
in doing the research, one day I found them in the records, and you know how if you go way over, it gives their marital status and so forth, and it says DIV.
wow.
And so she and Sam Hussey were divorced. Her mother.
Yeah.
So that was even further back.
Yeah. Wow.
That was in the early 1800s, which
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
yeah. So she was divorced. It
So,
was perpetuated right straight through.
yeah. And then she had 4 kids, one of which passed away. The 2 daughters she gave out,
And
But she wound up at your house to die,
yeah, she died on the
living on the couch.
living room couch.
Who's that?
Silver Street.
The one that gave up Raymond,
oh,
the mother.
yeah,
My grandmother.
Now
yeah.
he was still living, but he didn't
Oh, yeah,
want to take
right.
care of her.
Right, Emmons, he did want to take care of her. I don't know, I can't remember what she died of. I just remember that she was sick and she was on the couch in the living room, and that's where she died. I remember that,
Yeah.
and I remember
So your mother took her in?
I remember the funeral home out there in Biddeford where they had the service. But
How old were you at that time? Were you really
I was
young?
about 9.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was about 9 or 10, I think.
And apparently she tried to compensate for her act because she bought and paid, picked out and bought and paid for the engagement ring that he gave to Elsie, and she never would wear it. She told me that. She showed it to me. I have it. She said, I never wore it. She said, his mother bought it, picked it out, bought it, and paid for it. And she said, he didn't. So she did say to me that whenever he wanted money, or his mother fed money to him, you know.
Oh,
So she was, but Aunt Millie, every time I brought up anything about the Mitchells, when I was doing genealogy, she would say to me, I'm sorry, but I don't have a good feeling about her, and I don't want to talk about it.
mm-hmm.
She would never talk about her mother.
And, yeah, she wouldn't talk about that whole side of the family,
And
Yeah.
that's,
because I kept trying to, I'd say to her, how do the Goldthwaites fit in there? How do they fit in there? I keep
Wow.
finding the Goldthwaites and the Hills and all these people. And she'd say, I'm sorry, I don't have a good feeling about my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And so she said, we didn't have a good relationship.
What about Millie's sister?
We lost touch with her.
Alice, what happened, Alice, the last record that we had of Alice was in California.
Yep.
And Alice wrote to Aunt Millie, and apparently she gave an address.
She did.
She
It was
gave-
on a postcard.
It was on a postcard, and she wrote to Aunt Millie, and in the letter she said that you know, if she would like to correspond and to, you know, kind of associate and so forth and so on, that this was her name and address and so forth and so on, and give her, write her a letter, and they could kind of renew their relationship. Shortly after Aunt Millie got that letter or postcard or whatever it was, she got very sick.
Had to be in Boston.
And she had to go to Boston and be in the hospital, and she was operated on and so forth and so on. And by the time she recovered and got back somewhat to normal, the postcard disappeared. And so she lost the address of her sister. And apparently her sister, where she didn't hear from her, presumed that she didn't want to, and so she never wrote again.
Right.
We have the last name, because I wrote a letter to I had an address that I think Betty gave me, but it came back. Because her married name, they told me, was Wrigley. It was Wrigley. She was married. It was Wrigley. So, but it came back.
So, Millie's on the way back, having just been adopted.
Yep.
And
they were on the way to this family's home. They started to go across these railroad tracks, and they got hit by a train. Killed everybody in the car but her. Cut off her feet, and then I don't know when she met Alfred.
Well, she lived in another home, and she went to work for the telephone company there in Vassalboro area, and she worked there, and someone introduced her to him, and he was born and raised there.
Yeah.
So now something that's interesting is the fact that she had a good relationship with her father, William. She told me he used to come and visit her, and he'd bring his wife, Nancy, because she talked to me about this. Nancy Wiles was her last name. And was it interesting?
Very interesting. My grandfather's second wife had a brother. His name was
Ed.
And apparently my grandfather and his wife and her brother went to visit with Aunt Millie and Uncle Al, and this brother of my grandfather's second wife kind of liked the farm, and so he decided that he'd like to visit for a while, and he moved in and spent the rest of his life there.
wow.
Yeah, but
And we never, as a child, as a kid,
it was Uncle Ed.
it was this old Uncle Ed, but I never knew who he was.
Now, isn't it interesting that she had a good relationship with her father and his second wife, and so it kind of tells you in a way that she was angry with her mother, but her father made the point to visit with her after she got married, and she said he came frequently, and she wound up taking care of her stepmother's brother the rest of his life. So, you kind of think there may have been just a little bit more on that. I always had the feeling that Edith May Hussey probably grew up affluent, and William was a fisherman. That was his there in Biddeford. He was a fisherman. He may even had a drinking problem, who knows? But anyhow, he was a fisherman, and I just kind of had the feeling that that just
William-
wasn't the lifestyle that she was used to.
Yeah. William socially was beneath
Yeah.
her family, and that's probably why it never worked out. But there again, as I say,
Well, they weren't very friendly. You remember when you took your mother out and we stopped your mother wanted to stop and say hi to Juanita?
yeah,
And Juanita, that was Edith's sister, she came out, she saw us driving the driveway. She came out, we cranked down the window, just a little bit of small talk, and your mother knew they weren't going to invite her in,
yeah.
and really didn't want to talk to her. And so we just said small talk and left. They really weren't friendly at all.
Okay, so, and how old was she when the train wreck occurred?
She told me 15.
15,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know she was, I know that she was, quote, old for a child to be adopted.
Yes, that's what she said.
Because usually people that adopt don't adopt children, you know, usually
Right.
they're infants or little small children or whatever.
Now, she was married. Remember, she told us when she came to visit, she said, see that arch right
Oh,
there? She
yeah.
says,
Yeah,
She was
she
married.
and Uncle Al were married in that house in Preble Street.
Oh,
they came there to be married.
wow.
And she really loved the Taylor family. Actually, I think she said once that
They were the only
they were
family.
the only family that she had ever known.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she was a lovely lady.
Yeah, she was.
That's
When they were young.
That's Aunt Millie and Uncle Al when they were young. I don't know what the age was. Possibly on the back of the picture it might tell what her age is. And that's on the left is Uncle Al. In the middle is my sister Midge, and on the right is Aunt Millie
That's their 50th.
at their 50th wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
That's my great-grandmother Libby.
No,
It isn't?
no, it's Alice Farrah Fisher. It's a sister to Grandmother Libby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We can't make up our
You
mind.
see that field right there?
Yeah.
There's the barn, there's the field. I think that is the house out in Dunston. That was the Plummer Homestead out there in Dunston. Really do. I don't think that's the one in.
It's either that or on the Pool Road, going from Biddeford down to Biddeford Pool. One of my grandmother's sisters, Olive, I think it was.
Mhm, Olive.
And her husband had this house, and I don't, I can remember about it is it was elongated, so to speak. It was long like that.
Mhm.
But Mom seems to think that was a house out in Dunston. That was
That house would be still out, still wouldn't have that house out in Biddeford, would they?
Well, I don't,
Because the
don't
college is.
the college has got all of that land.
Yeah,
And they tore down all those buildings.
yeah.
No, that's not there. And besides that, when they upgraded the roadway going out to the pool, when they straightened the road out, so they bypassed that section of it anyway.
That's my sister Mary.
Well, how old was she?
I would say she was probably 19 or
Mhm.
20.
That's my sister Midge and her husband on their 50th wedding anniversary. They held a reception at, you said that church, wasn't it, down the street? That picture's taken on the steps of the church. That's my sister, on the left is my sister Harriet, and on the right is my sister Midge. And I don't know what the occasion was, we were just together for some reason, and I think I took that picture.
Yeah.
And that's Aunt Millie, and right on the bottom of it, it says age 17.
17. Wow. That's just the clipping that was in
Yeah.
the newspaper.
Oh yeah, from that very picture.
I think that's Aunt Millie when she was a little girl.
Mhm. How could you give up a little girl?
That's a picture of my grandfather, and I presume it's his brothers.
See?
Yeah, my grandfather is the one on the left standing. The two seated in the front, I don't have any idea.
The one up there is Clifford, I think.
And the one to the right of my grandfather's Clifford.
I think so.
Yeah.
And one of these is Sam, but I don't know which one.
Clifford, who's Clifford?
The one standing there is
No,
Clifford
I mean,
Plummer.
okay, Clifford.
Those are his brothers.
No, so they are his brothers.
Yeah, one is Sam. One was the sheriff in Portland.
They were sporting some pretty decent suds, dusters.
Some pretty healthy mustaches.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, that's Mom and
Heidi?
Leonard and Heidi and Becky and Michael. At Christmas time.
What year? I don't know.
Well, it must have been,
Oh,
let's see, it must have been in the early 70s. It must have been 72 or 73, because Michael is,
oh yeah, he's just a little.
Nancy's not there,
No.
and Len's a big kid,
Mhm.
and Heidi's,
Oh, 12.
and Michael is standing up there, so he must have been 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe older than that.
Mhm.
So it must have been 1972, 73.
Yeah. Carly reminds me Heidi, as
Yes.
did Melanie.
Yes,
You look at that smile on
on Becky.
Becky's face, that
Yeah.
reminds me of Julie.
Oh, that's me in the middle, can't you
Boy,
guess?
were you emaciated.
Yeah.
And to my right is John Switzer, and to my left is David Harriman. And they were my counselors when I was bishop of Cape Elizabeth. That's just I don't know who took that picture, where it came from, but that's when I worked for the express company. I was loading up a truck, getting ready to go out and make deliveries.
That's Skipper.
That's Skipper.
That's that old
That's,
Dorothy Plummer's place.
Dorothy Plummer's mansion up on the eastern promenade in
Has
Portland.
a spiral staircase.
Staircase.
Yeah. That's what I was told.
Never was in it. She died and left an estate of over $400,000, and she had a man, a caretaker, that she wrote a letter to at some period of time, and said that when she died he could buy the house for a certain amount of money. But by the time she died, the value of the property had quadrupled in value, and so she left a lot of money to
Charities.
different charities. And one of the charities, or at least one, maybe more, tried to bring suit against the estate or something, against the caretaker, because ultimately, if the property got sold for the figure that she had told him he could have it at, the charity, and if it got sold at the market value at the time she died,
Right.
the charities would have received considerably more. But it went before a judge, and the judge said, no way, this is a legal document that this man's got. It lists a particular price, and unfortunately, it's a legal document, and that's what he gets it for.
It was,
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was like the place was probably worth $500,000.
oh, more than that.
Or
yes.
more.
Yeah.
And he got it for 100,000
Yeah.
or less. Anyway, that picture's my grandfather. He had a beautiful mustache.
Yeah.
That's Edward
Edward Clark.
Clark.
And that's him again. Nice looking man, wasn't he?
If you get rid of that, the
At least-
mustache,
At
what you could see of him,
least his nose and eyes are.
Yeah.
on a bush.
Yeah. So, my first name is for Leonard
Uncle Len.
Liddy, and my middle name is...
Your middle name is for him.
Yeah, okay.
Is that my grandfather?
I don't know.
Have to look on the back of that one to tell what it is. That's my grandfather.
You see Scotty?
Yeah.
You see Scotty Crocker?
But
Yeah.
my mother's eyes.
In your mother's eyes, yes. Yes.
Yeah, I do.
That's my grandfather. My grandfather ran an antique shop, second-hand store,
Mm-hmm.
furniture store. That's a picture of him in the store that he ran, the second-hand furniture and antiques and stuff like that. And that's in the back is my mother. The woman on the left was my grandmother Plummer, and the older woman on the right is my great-grandmother Liddy. I think that's my mother. Oh yeah, it says right underneath it. Elsie, 1915, 16 years old. And where that was taken, I don't know. That's another one of her. And that's my mother when she was a little girl.
Page 10.
It says age 10 on that one. And that's Mel Hawks,
Mm-hmm.
my sister Harriet's husband, and my mother. I don't know what the occasion was.
Your mother?
Yeah, isn't that my mother? It's not Harriet. that Harriet? No, it might be. It looks more like my mother than Harriet. Then again, Harriet could look a lot like my mother.
No, I think it's Harriet.
That could be it. Yeah, I guess maybe it is. Well, she sure looks like my mother in that picture. That's my mother.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good picture of her. It was somewhat of a sad day. I think that picture was taken on the day that she finally divorced my father.
I mean, that looks like a professional
Yes,
studio type picture.
She did, she told me. The girls wanted to have a picture taken and she did. But it was sad, it was a sad day. Looks like Midge there.
That's I don't know. It says down underneath, it says born February 3rd, 1899, but what's the date underneath it? I can't tell.
Well, it comes
She
out
must
at
have been.
1955, so I would assume maybe this is a newspaper clipping or something relative to her death.
No, my mother didn't
Oh,
look like
it
that
has-
in 1955.
No, it has her birth date and her death date, that's all.
Oh, yes, that's right.
That's all.
Oh, that might have been a picture that was, why would they put a picture like that in a
No, no.
newspaper?
That's just a picture that we had
Oh, I see.
of your
okay.
mother, and that below, we wrote that.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, those, that was a sticker.
Oh, she was so
She had
cute there.
That's her when she was an infant,
She's about a year, I think.
or a year old.
Yeah.
When she was about, was a year or two old, she wasn't very old. Back in those days, washing machines hadn't been invented yet, whatever, and they used to put these big, they called them wash boilers. They were big, a huge big copper.
Oh,
It was an oval-shaped tub-like, and it had sides on it, maybe 18 or 20 inches high, and they filled it up with soiled clothes and water, put it on the stove, and heated the water, and then they had a stick, and they would slosh the clothes around in the hot water and so forth, and she must have been
toddler.
2 or 3 years old, or 3 or 4 years old, because she was walking around, and somehow or other, that when she was near the stove, that wash boiler
It was on the floor.
was on the floor, and she fell in it.
Oh, no, she walked up and she backed up to it and
And fell in.
fell in, yeah.
But anyway, and the water in it was boiling hot, and what she said was that it burned all of her body except her armpits. The only place that didn't burn was under her
Yeah.
armpits.
Wow.
And she said that for months, until she healed, somebody had to stand and hold her with their hands under her armpits, because she
Oh, they carried her on a pillow too.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, that's what she said, they carried her around on a pillow.
I didn't think she could lay down.
No, they carried her around on a pillow.
Huh.
She didn't scar.
No,
said-
she didn't scar.
Didn't scar.
No.
They had a lot of pictures of her, didn't they, huh?
Yeah.
I was surprised.
Well, see, they were,
This is,
They
I
were-
bet, this is that school picture that we saw the background of that.
Oh, yes, that's
She-
probably just it.
Yeah,
And
and she's right,
well, from here I can't.
she's second row. Let's see, there's a blurred face there, that's not, and she's the next one down, I think.
I can't tell from here.
Yeah, and I think
But anyway, that's a school picture. That, oh yes, that's Nightville School.
yes, it is.
That's Nightville School. That's the other side of that one that we just saw.
Right,
That-
yeah.
So it, on the
So
back.
we'll go back and
you
look at that,
can
yeah.
Tell which one she is.
Okay, yeah.
That looks like her.
That's her.
The second one in from the left on the second row.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Yeah.
and she was posing in that picture.
Mm-hmm. She has a rose pinned to her. That's part of her dress.
When she was a young woman, her waist was so small that my Uncle Liam, who had rather large hands, but he could put his hands around her waist and touch his
Fingers.
fingers.
Wow.
That's how small she was around the waist.
And
That was a picture she had done she belonged to the Ossawampa Garden Club.
those are eggs.
What was the name of the garden club again?
Ossawampa.
Ossawampa Garden Club. And they were having some kind of a,
Well, they had their annual,
they were having some kind of
um,
meeting or dinner or some such thing, and
those were favors.
and she made those. They were place settings, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
And she made these place settings for
Too
the
bad that
different
wasn't in
ends
color.
of the
They were beautiful.
club, and she made them out of eggshells. She poked a hole in the end of the eggs somehow and
Really.
blew the insides out, and then she painted faces and put hats and all kinds of different things. I think that picture was in the newspaper.
It
wasn't it?
was, yeah.
But you notice her left arm and hand are behind her.
Mm-hmm.
She did that quite frequently because after she had the stroke, it left her partially paralyzed in that side, and she walked with a limp, but her left arm and hand, she didn't always have complete control, and so she always, in order to keep from having, having the arm or the hand swing loose or something, she always kept it behind her.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Oh yeah, there it is.
There's that house with the barn. No, not the same house with the barn, with the gate.
Well, if it's the other side of that one we just saw, I thought it said something about willows on it.
Yeah. Oh, the Willows?
So
Oh.
if that's the other side,
That was the bed and breakfast place, the
Yeah.
restaurant that they ran?
that was on Bitterford, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. We know where this is. Down in,
That was the
down
house
on-
down in Nightville,
yeah.
the old homestead. It's
Oh.
still there.
Uncle Norman's place.
Uncle Norman's. The house is still there.
They haven't done anything
Well,
to it, on the outside.
see, he was a odd duck, is about the only way to put it. And he was really odd. He would never, in his entire life, I don't think he ever ate a meal in a restaurant.
Wow.
He would not have any aluminum cookware. Everything had to be cooked in steel because for some reason he thought, see, my grandmother Plummer and my grandmother Libby both died of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow or other, he attributed the cancer to aluminum cookware.
Mm.
And so he would never, and he'd never go to anybody's house to visit or to have a meal or anything for fear that they might cook something in aluminum. And then he wouldn't use, he never used regular silverware. I can't remember, all I can remember is he had these forks and they were made out of steel and they had wooden handles. I don't remember what knives and spoons look like,
Mm-hmm.
but he was really,
I remember his goldfish pond, and
yep,
remember his barn chock full of tools.
yep.
Mm.
Tons and tons of tools down there.
I think that's, I don't know who the older woman is, but
The grandmother, one of the
one
grandmothers.
of the grandmothers, I think that's my mother.